Alright, so I'm going to help you get started on drawing your contour still life. Two are due by the end of today's class. In the next class, I ask you to do 3 5-minute gesture drawings. Before you do your two contour drawings that are due by end of this class for Monday, I also recommend and encourage you to loosen up and warm up and do some gesture drawings before you do your two still life contour drawings. Okay, so these should be done in your sketchbook, and if you're doing it in your sketchbook, please try to take up the whole page. If you're doing it on newsprint, that's perfectly fine as well, but these should be somewhat finished and not gestural. Okay, but I'm going to do a few gesture drawings before just to warm up, and I ask you to use pencil, but I will be using graphite for now. Okay, so depending on, obviously you're not working from a still life setup from life, you're working from the folder of still life images that I sent you. So for those, you are going to have to zoom in a bit and crop some of the edges because there's a lot of background surrounding space. So that is up to you, but I ask you that you try not to crop in too much that you're only including like 3 objects, at least a good 5 objects, okay, like so. So when you are looking, decide if you want horizontal, landscape or portrait orientation, okay? So I'm just gonna do a few gesture drawings in charcoal just to kind of loosen up. Let's see. You can use fine charcoal, you can use compressed charcoal, but when you're drawing, try to stay active. And be into what you're drawing. I know they're kind of boring. They're just kind of sitting there and they're just white and plain and like cones and squares, but yeah, be engaged in what you are drawing, okay? So I'm not worrying about measurements, I'm just loosening up, okay? So quick gesture drawings, okay? So I'm just placing it here. Alright, so let's make quick gesture drawing. I'm just gonna go back in and maybe just not worrying about angles and lines yet. I'm just trying to get a feel for the objects, okay? This cube has very straight lines. The circle, you can't draw a perfect circle like this. Don't do this. Alright, I don't want you to try to even draw a perfect circle the first time, especially if you're doing a gesture drawing. That's not the point. Draw many lines, it doesn't matter, okay? You could just go over it like this, drawing angles. I have another little cube here, and it looks something like this. It's smaller than the big cube. How much smaller is it? Don't worry about that. I have a smaller ball here compared to this one, and then there's a cone behind it. Okay? Right? That's all you need. You can go over this with your gesture drawing and charcoal pencil if you want and kind of rework it. You're just trying to get a feel for the lines and angles of the objects. Okay? After this, do another one. Flip it over. Maybe you want to fold the newsprint in half, save some newsprint. Try one that's maybe horizontal, this way. Use a clip. Okay. Maybe you want to try setting it up differently. At the 2 here, like that, okay? Let's try this out. Alright. Again, lots of little lines for the ball. Just getting a feel. It might not fit, doesn't matter. Okay? We know some things look off. That's perfectly fine. As long as you know that. if you're like, oh, this is perfect, the angles are perfect, then you know something's wrong. But you know, go back and try again. Cube, line, the cone. Tried it out. Okay, just for a warm up, that's all you need to do. I would say do like 4 or 5 of those. Okay, but after you warm up and you're actually doing the class assignment, which is to do 2 contour still life drawings in your sketchbook or newsprint. Be nice to wash your hands, but I'm just gonna go for it. Remember, these should be done in pencil, so I'm gonna, that was, gesture drawings was just for the demo. Even for the pencil ones, you know, if you're working on an 18 by 24 newsprint, you don't have to take up the whole thing, but let's just start with maybe a light pencil gesture drawing. I'm not drawing any lines like super hard, like I'm not pressing down like this. Just the same thing as I did with charcoal, and I'm not exactly sure if the placement of my lines and angles are correct, but I want to get just a general placement and feel like my gesture drawings, okay? You know, it's fine if it's wrong. Now, when I look at this still life from the angle that I'm looking at it, it seems like more than like a landscape orientation, a portrait orientation might be more suitable. Don't worry about that too much for now. Worry about that for your final, when you're trying to decide on your final. But I mean, conveniently, it's just in portrait orientation, so it kind of fits. I'm looking at kind of the general shape, so it kind of goes up this way, slides down. So it's more of like a square-ish, like all together they kind of make more of a squarish group, versus like if, you know, the objects have been like this, it's more of a triangular kind of setup composition, but it's more of a squarish composition, okay? So I'm looking at that, it works. If I were to, I know you can't see this, but this is my quick gesture drawing. You probably still can't see it because the lines are so light, but if I were to maybe use this for my final on a final piece of paper, not newsprint, I would maybe move it up. Obviously you would need more objects, but that's what I would do. Just things to think about. Don't think too hard like I am right now. Okay, so now I'm gonna go in and check the angles and placement of the objects in relation to each other, okay? So you can start with maybe choose one object. So I'm going to start with this cube right here. Okay, so this is my line for this line right here. To measure this angle right here for the cube, and in my next video I will go over, you know, checking to see and how to measure the angles and lines for ellipses and cubes. But if you use your drawing tool, if you have like a metal ruler or a stick, it's fine too. But you will line up your pencil along the line here. Not physically like that, but from where you are standing, okay? You line it up, and this sounds very weird, but you're gonna directly transfer it up to here like this, okay? And double check. So from here, so I get an angle of something like this. Maybe a little bit more slanted. Don't even feel like you have to erase that line before. Just let it be, okay? Just go over it. You can do that when you do your final lines, okay? So I'm getting some right here. Now, how do you know how long this side is compared to this side, right? Okay, and you're going to compare this to this, okay? With your pencil, you're going to take the end of your pencil, close one eye, line this point up with this point, from where you're standing, not physically like this. Okay, from where you're standing, line it up, put your thumb at the edge right here. And the other videos also explain how to do the comparative sight and mapping, and also the PowerPoint as well, but you're going to compare this width to this width, okay? And I'm actually getting that it is quite similar, if not the same, like this width to this width. So I know that this line is going to be about the same width as from here to here. Okay, I'm going to double check. Check many times. Yeah, I think this side might be a little bit longer than this side. So I'm going to shift it over. No erasing, doesn't matter. Now I'm going to check the angle of this one. Stand back, line up your pencil, move it. This is what I get. Okay, I'm going to double check. I think it could be less slanted. Check my other one, getting somewhere here. Check my angle here, getting somewhere here. Okay, so this is what I got for darken the final lines. You don't have to erase the lines underneath. This is what I have. Okay, so let's see, let's move on to this line right here. Okay. Got that. And I got that. So I drew my cube. Now, there are a few things that don't make sense in this cube right now, and I'll go over that in the next video, but I'm just gonna make the adjustments really quickly. Okay, that's my cube. Alright, so let's start with the ball. So I am going to relate the width, the length of this side here to all the objects, okay? Comparative mapping and sighting. So I noticed that the width of this, so the width of this sphere, this one right here, is about 3/4 the width of this. Maybe more than 3/4. But definitely more than half. So it's between half and the full. So it's like a little bit over 3/4. So I'm going to take this, the width of the ball, right? It's going to be about maybe like here. And I think I had it pretty much on point. Now I don't see the edge of the cube because the ball is covering it. But it's like bare, actually no, I'm always moving. So it's barely there, just after it. And the ball, the edge of this ball touches this line right here, around here. So that's where I'm going to put my ball. Now I'm going to check a few things. First, I'm going to check the angle of this to this corner right here and make sure it lines up in place. So I'm going to line up here to here from where I'm standing. Okay, so I'm getting that the ball should hit this point right here. So the ball is going to be a little bit bigger to hit that point. So this angle is here. Just checking my angles again. It's going to be this line, this line right here. So that looks good. Okay. Notice I'm not erasing anything. I'm just going over it and just being loose, not pressuring myself to make perfect lines yet. Okay. So now I'm going to draw this smaller cube. And once again, I'm going to compare the width of this side to this side from where I'm standing. Okay. I'm getting that the width of this is about the width of the ball. So I'm going to check that. Yep, I think the cube is just about as wide as the sphere. Now, where is the cube? Like, where is it in relation to this point right here, right? How do I find that out, right? So I'm going to measure the angle from this point to this point, just like I did with this point to this point. I'm going to measure it from this point to this point from where I'm standing with my pencil. I notice that it's not completely straight. It's a bit angled like this, okay? And I can check the width, the distance between the cubes, once again by comparing it to the width of this side of the cube. And I notice that it's about a third of this width, right? So if I have this width, if I divide it into 3, it's about a third of that. So it's going to be somewhere here, okay? And once again, this takes a lot of practice, like mapping out, relating each object and width and height to each other. So don't expect this to go as fast. I'm kind of rushing as well because I don't want this video to like go overboard, but once again, I'm going to check the height of the cube in relation to the width. And I notice that the height is not as long as the width. So this, even though, like, if I'm looking at it directly, this is the same length as this, because it's a cube, it's a square. But from this angle downwards, the height is shorter than the width. So if this is the width of the cube, right? Let's check the angle of the cube first, at the bottom. So it's slightly slanted. And it's going to be the width of this, so it's going to be up to here, slightly angled. The height is just the teeny bit shorter than the width. So somewhere here. Okay, I'm going to do the same for this angle, and this angle. Double checking my angles. Now let's check the width of this side to this side. I know you can't see this side, but it's going to be about half, less than half. So I'm right here. Looks good. And I know I can't see it yet, but I'm just going to draw the, just going to make sure we're still recording. Yep. Okay. All right, there you go. So now the cone. How tall is the cone, let's say, in relation to the top of the sphere? There are different ways to go about doing this. You can compare it to this side, the length of this side again. But I'm just going to go like this from where I'm standing. Top of the cone, it's angled up somewhere here, okay? The edge of the cone right here touches somewhere here. It goes off. Oh dear. Okay. So it seems like something is off. So you may run into this problem. You draw the cone, it's the right height and everything, but something is off. Okay, so we're going to just go back and double check. Make sure. I believe it's this. This cube is too close to this cube, so I'm going to move everything this way. That's why you can't commit to your lines right now. Keep it loose. Okay, let's try this again. So move it here. I'm also going to check the angle from here to here. So I'm getting some more placement over here. So let's go this way. And now I moved it over and it makes more sense with what I see. So I'm just gonna double check. Make little X's for where it should be. This one looks better. So what I found out was that I drew this cube too close to this cube. So I checked the angle from here to here from where I was standing, and I noticed that it was more slanted. Make sure I'm recording still. So that's what I did. Same thing for this cube is what you would do. I'm gonna measure the angle from this end to this end from where I'm standing. I noticed that the smaller sphere is about 3/4. This one right here, that looks about good. Okay, check the angle from here to this corner. That looks good. After you do this, you want to go back in, check all the angles and placements, erase the lines, or darken the final lines. Okay, next video I'm going to go over drawing ellipses and checking to see if your cube is in perspective, drawn in perspective.